I want to say something that I think is not a part of the conversation of women in dating. We told women to go to therapy, to read the books, to know your patterns, to know your attachment style, right? And women became self-aware. You're able to self-diagnose. You know when you're spiraling. You know when you're feeling anxious in your body. And even though you are self-aware, you've gone out and you still are in unhealthy relationships. You still find yourself settling. And what happens is that instead of society, instead of therapists, instead of coaches being curious as to why you've done all this work and it hasn't equaled a healthy relationship like we told you it would, we tell you that there's more work for you to do. Today, I want to talk about why self-aware women still accept the least in dating, because I believe being self-aware is a part of the solution, but I think we have been giving you incomplete directions as it relates to how you are supposed to show up in dating. This is not an internal problem. You've done your work. It is an external issue. And today, if you stay with me through the whole video, I'm going to break it down and show you what it is that you truly need to do in order not just to be self-aware, but to access the healthy love that you deserve and break the pattern of accepting least, the very least, the bare minimum in dating, all right? So I believe that society sold us a lie. They told us that we were self-aware, that it would be protection, that it would be armor, and that is not the truth, right? We were told if we understood ourselves, if we did the inner work, if we knew our patterns and our attachment style, that we would then be able to repel unhealthy men and attract healthy men. And that was a beautiful idea, but it just wasn't the truth. And I want to be very specific about why, right, this doesn't work or it didn't work. Self-awareness tells you what is happening, but it doesn't stop it from happening. I have worked with women who could diagnose what was going on with them. Cynthia, I know I shouldn't have texted him, but I was just feeling anxious in my body. I know, Cynthia, that this situation is triggering me. It's triggering my father wound or my mother wound or my abandonment or my rejection, but they still didn't have the ability to control their reaction to it. Being self-aware to the behavior, but having the ability to intervene are two different things. And while therapy may have taught you, the podcast, the self-help books taught you how to be aware, we didn't teach you how to intervene. We didn't teach you how to stop the behavior before you engaged in it. And so what ended up happening is that many women continue to engage in problematic patterns in their thinking and also in their action, which leads them to being in unhealthy relationships. We have turned self-awareness into a destination, as if, oh, here I am, I have arrived. Women are being told, if you just understand yourself well enough, that the right man will come. You know why you stayed in the relationship. You can explain it beautifully, but you are still in the wrong relationship. And that's the gap that nobody is talking about. And that's why I'm doing this video today. Here is something I have observed that I think is genuinely underexplored. Self-aware women are often the best at rationalizing staying in situations that are not good for them. That's always why I say in my videos, if you're watching my video to understand his behavior only for you to stay, turn my video off. I do not want you to rationalize his behavior. It's easy for you to say, well, he's my avoidant. I understand the things that happened in his childhood, or he's working on healing, or he's emotionally unavailable. Self-aware women know how to kind of compartmentalize behavior. We can identify it, but we don't have the skills to address the problematic behavior that is showing up in our dating experience. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that understanding the behavior is wrong. I'm saying understanding it without a standard is just tolerance. And I'm seeing many women tolerating problematic behavior in relationships because I know there's a lot of conditioning towards us. We're told that nobody's perfect. Relationships require work. And with that, you being a self-aware woman, you are very accepting of him because of the conditioning that society and the church has kind of shaped us in. And I'm going to get more into that later. I want you to know that how you show up in relationships, especially as it relates to settling in relationships, it's not an internal issue, right? It's not a personal failure. It's really a structural one. I want to talk about how we raise girls in culture. I did a video, Stop Raising Your Daughters to Serve Grown Men. And we raise girls to be easy to love. We raise girls to be responsive to the needs of others. We raise girls really to be palatable. We raise girls not to fight back, not to question. Remember, we're supposed to be sugar and spice and everything nice. The issue is we don't raise boys the same way. Boys are taught to pursue what they want. Girls are taught, right, to make themselves worthy of being chosen. Boys are taught that their desires matter. Girls are taught that it matters to be desirable. And so you have girls showing up wanting to be chosen, but you have boys showing up being the ones in a position of power. And we see that even now that there's this power dynamic in dating. We see that there's this also sometimes this fear mongering among men towards single women specifically, telling you how you're going to die alone. There was this chaos when there was the question about, would you rather choose the bear or the man? And when women said, unequivocally, we will choose the bear, it was like, what is going on? It's because that boys were not taught the same things as girls. Boys weren't taught to be easy to love. Boys weren't taught to be kind, to be nice, to be attentive. Boys weren't taught that their role is to make everything around them function, but we've taught girls to do that. And now we're confused as to why self-aware women are showing up with that programming. Yes, you can diagnose your trauma. Yes, you can diagnose your triggers, but you don't have anything in the middle to address the conditioning that happened to you before your frontal lobe was even fully developed. We raise an entire generation of women to be chosen, and then we are surprised when they accept whatever choice was offered to them. And that's why I have an issue with the whole like who likes you conversation, because the man who likes you may not be healthy for you. The man who likes you may be abusive. The man who likes you may not be able to take care of himself as an individual adult. But we have shaped and conditioned our girls and now our women to accept anything from a man. I have to say this one out loud because I'm a church girl, and the church made it worse. I want to talk to faith communities because I know a lot of the women in the Healed Squad are a part of a faith community. The message that many of these communities gave us about love and relationships was, and I'm going to be direct here, very harmful. Women were told to be submissive, to be patient, to pray for a man, to cover him, to be a soft place that he lands. We were told that love is sacrifice, that staying is faithfulness, that having standards is pride. That having standards is pride. And underneath all of that was a message to women that we internalized so deeply. Because this is the thing. Let's be honest. Many of us want to be pleasing to God, whoever you identify God as. I identify him as God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, right? So how we are showing up in as women, how I show up in my Christianity before I started doing this work was that I wanted to be pleasing to God. And so I internalized sacrificing in relationship as the same sacrifice as picking up my cross. And that is not the very same thing. The church told us that a good woman adjusts herself to be loved and that she does not demand, she endures. And then that woman grows up, does all the therapy, reads all the books, learns all the language, and she still at a cellular level believes that what she wants from love requires her to shrink in order to receive it. And that is the message that is still being pushed to us today, that if you get too big, there's not going to be a healthy man mature enough to love you. So you have to shrink, and you have to make sure that you make a man feel comfortable so that his ego doesn't get involved. Men aren't taught, even in church, to love women the same way that women are taught to love men. While women are taught and there's emphasis on submission, there is not emphasis on a man loving this wife as Christ loved the church. There's not an emphasis of him giving his life for his wife. There's not an emphasis of him being a servant leader. So the conditioning of men, even how Christian men show up, is very different than how Christian women show up or other women of faith. Here's the problem with how we talk to women about growth in dating. Every instruction we give them is self-directed. Work on yourself, heal yourself, be better for yourself. Then you will attract differently by being different. As if the entire solution lives inside the woman and the problem was never external. The conversation just can't be directed towards women. Nobody says to men, before you date, make sure you've done the emotional labor. Make sure you're able to show up consistently. Make sure you've examined yourself to ensure that you're even safe to love. The conversation is not happening at scale to men. Now, there are some men that are doing wonderful work on this. I love Mr. Jason Wilson and I love David Burris. These are men that are married that are having conversations with men about you have to be safe to love. You have to show yourself to a woman that you are safe for her to love you. But we have told women repeatedly and loudly, if you're still getting hurt, then it's your fault. What are you doing to attract that type of man? When really it's both sides having to do their work so that we can have a healthy relationship. And women that are brilliant, self-aware, growth-oriented, accepted that framing. They accepted that there's something that's wrong with them that has them in abusive relationships, that there's something that's wrong with them that has them settling for love that's truly not love, that has them settling for scraps of relationship. There are women that have settled or accepted that, men will be men, boys will be boys. There are women that have accepted, even though they're self-aware, they've accepted this high value trope and cheating as parts of relationships. Now, I'm not saying that women shouldn't grow. I'm saying growth should not be the price of admission to being treated with dignity and respect. Why can't we live in a world where we're just kind and considerate of people? Why are we telling women that they must grow? But this is why I'm doing a course on July 18th. It's called The Girlies Need Boundaries, because something that I know, even women that are extremely intelligent, go-getter women, do not have boundaries. And that is why you are in you're in dating or you're in relationships, feeling like you have to compromise and accept the very least. It's on July 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. The link will be down below as the first pinned comment. So let me tell you what I think is really happening. After working with women as a therapist and coach, after watching this pattern play out over and over, self-aware women are accepting the least, not because they do not know their worth. They accept the least because knowing your worth and enforcing it are two different things. And we have not given the women, or I do, but many people are not giving women the skills in order to enforce what it is that they already know. So you deserve consistency, but you've never been taught how to hold the line when he is inconsistent and you're scared to leave. You deserve emotional availability, but you were never taught, right, how to name the absence of it calmly without spiraling. You know that that you should be chosen fully. Now over here we believe that we mutually choose each other, but you know that you are supposed to be chosen fully, but no one ever gave you the skills to address when this man is half in and half out. So you keep holding space for the relationship, hoping that he will come fully into the relationship. You can know your worth in your mind and have no practice, right, enforcing it with a man in the room. And that's really where the disconnect is. We have to understand how the nervous system works. Being self-aware is a frontal lobe cognition. You have your nervous system that is working against you. And when you don't have the ability to practice what you know, you will go to what is default for you, what makes you comfortable. And that's what's in your nervous system. I want to be very specific about something right here. Many women were not given the permission to walk away from a man. So there's a conditioning that happened to many of us. You could be self-aware, but many of us weren't taught that you need permission. There's a permission structure that's on the inside of you that's holding you to these relationships, because we have been taught to cherish a relationship more than cherishing ourselves. We've been taught that being in a relationship, even if it is a bad or abusive relationship, is better than being a single woman. See, being a single woman is seen like having a scarlet letter, but you have to give yourself permission to operate outside of these structures, these societal norms that are ultimately causing you mental and emotional pain. Most women, I mean deeply aware, deeply self-aware ones, have a voice inside of them that functions as a permission structure. This is the voice, really, when girlies say, I have imposter syndrome, this is that voice. But it operates in every area of your life. It tells you what you can do, what you can't do, what you can ask for, what you can't ask for. And in relationships, many women, this is their default. So you don't want to be seen as too much. You don't want to be seen as asking for too much. This caused you to watch him, to kind of monitor your words, to shrink, to kind of soften the blow before you have to have conversations with him. This has you accepting the coffee date when you don't want the coffee date. You don't even drink coffee, but because society says, how dare you want something outside of coffee, or how dare you not want to go to Applebee's, this permission structure operates on the inside of you. This permission structure is the same thing that prohibits you from saying no, that prohibits you from going for the promotion, because on the inside of women is an internal mechanism that tells us that we can't have the very things that we want. And this is where the work has to be done. Because self-awareness cannot quiet a voice that was installed in you before you were old enough to question it. And that's where your frontal lobe comes in. Many of us have internal scripts that we are living our life by. And these are scripts that were given to us by religion, by culture, by society, by social media. And so we are living and dating through these scripts, when the truth is you have to give yourself permission. Nobody has ever went back and updated that permission structure, right? Therapy helped you to understand where it came from. Books help you name it. Podcasts help you to name it in real time. But when you went back out in dating with all of the knowledge, that permission structure was still running the show. Because understanding where a belief comes from does not replace the belief. That belief sits next to your understanding. They kick at it. So you understand and there's the belief. But you're living through the belief, not through your understanding. And in an emotional situations where the stakes are high, what are you going to do? You're going to fall back to your default, not what you learned, not what you understand. And that's why women come to me and they're like, Cynthia, I can't believe that I just fell for it. I can't believe that I'm in this same cycle again. You're in the same cycle, not because there's an internal failure, not because there's something wrong with you, but because you are living through the beliefs that were created on the inside of you. The beliefs that you witnessed as it relates to relationships before you even have the word for what love was. There was a belief, there was a structure created on the inside of you. That is why self-aware women end up accepting the very least in relationships. Not because you don't know, but because knowing was never the finish line. It was just the beginning of a different kind of work that nobody told you that you still had to do. So the answer is not more awareness, it's to practice more in this new structure. All right? This means you need to update what you believe and what you are allowed to have. Not in theory, because you already have theory, but in practice, in your body. You're going to have to ask for what you want and sit with the uncomfortableness of it, whether it happens or it doesn't. You have to sit with the moment when he doesn't call. And you start feeling anxious and worried about if he really likes you. You have to practice doing the thing that you were never given permission to do, which is being able to articulate your standards or your boundaries, what you will accept in a relationship and what is unacceptable to you. And you have to hold it without apology and be willing to let the relationship in rather than abandon yourself. See, many of us have been taught that it's okay to abandon ourselves. Now, I am not saying that you should do this all at once. I believe that this should be incremental. I'm not saying to give an ultimatum. That's not what I'm saying. I want you to practice saying what it is that you want and sitting with the uncomfortableness, especially if you are in a relationship or you are out there newly dating. I need you to be able to tell a man that I need you to communicate when you're unavailable. I need you to be consistent in the relationship and sit with the uncomfortableness of it. And guess what? I need you to be okay even if you have to walk away from the relationship because he is not willing to adjust his behavior in order to be with you. See, there's a difference between being self-aware and actually being healed. See, healed women are able to feel uncomfortable, but they stand on business. They stand on what they believe. They hold their standards. We've taught women to be self-aware, but we didn't do a good job in encouraging to hold their standards because, again, there is a fear that I just named in this video that it is better to be in a relationship with an unhealthy man, even if the relationship is killing you and sucking the life out of you on the inside, than it is to be a single woman. See, being healed, right, is actually a practice. You have to practice. I tell my clients all the time, the 1 hour you stay with me is not going to be life-changing per week. It's when you are outside and you implement the things that we've talked about in our session, whether it's our therapy session or our coaching session. Healed looks like a woman who is scared and says what she knows anyway, who is attached and she's still willing to walk away from what is not working for her. I've worked with many women and they've said, Cynthia, I can't walk away because I love him. But the question is, do you love yourself? While love is patient, it's kind, and it endures, that's what scripture, holy text tells us. There's nothing there that says that you just have to continue to wrestle with the person who is showing you that they don't want to love you the way that you deserve. You should kick the dust off of your feet. But many of us have been conditioned to stay, to hope, to pray that eventually he'll change. So I want to come back to where I started. We have not been telling the women truth about self-awareness. We have been selling it as an arrival point, as a thing that once achieved, that it'll change your dating life. That once you become self-aware, once you know your dating pattern, once you know your attachment style, that you'll attract healthier men. And that's not true. And many women believed it because it makes sense, right? Once I'm healed, once I know myself better, I'll be able to attract something different because we've been told that like attracts like, and that's not true. It's not necessarily what you attract. It's also what you accept. And I hope in this video, you've learned to accept differently. You've learned to give yourself permission to ask for what you want. And when you aren't receiving what you want, that you give yourself permission to leave a relationship that's not serving you. Okay? I want you to know, right, that this is the work. The work of being able to voice what it is, what you need. Standing on business, as the girls say. Being strict, as the girls say. That is the work. So if what I described today is where you are, if you've done the work, the self-awareness work, but you're like, Cynthia, I'm still accepting the least in dating, I want you to sign up for the Girls Need Boundaries course that's going to be held on July 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is where I'm going to teach you how to not only be aware, but enforce your standards. One thing as it relates to boundaries is that I believe we teach people how to treat us. We teach them, right, by what we accept and what we tolerate. And there's some unlearning that we as girlies have to do if we're going to have healthy love. It's not just about being self-aware. It's about challenging the permission structure. It's about being clear about what we accept. And it's even about walking away, breaking our own heart if we have to, and knowing and believing that healthy love is out there for us. My name is Cynthia. This is Heal the New Sexy. Till we talk again.